Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So, this is a tip in Ramadan for all the shuyukh and not only the shuyukh, for every person who becomes an Imam for Salat al-Tarawih. When is it permissible to beat up an Imam? Well, this is it's a good question and very funny also. One of the people says that we are only able to beat up an Imam if he takes really, really long in Salat al-Tarawih. So, for example, one Imam, this is a very funny story from long ago, from the Imam. He used to, in the first rak'ah, he prayed, when you start with the first two rak'ahs, he prayed in the first rak'ah, he read Surah Al-Fatiha, and he read all of Surah Al-Baqarah, from the first to the end, the longest surah in the Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah. And then he he did the ruku' and the sujood, and then he went up, raised up to the second rak'ah. He read Al-Fatiha, and he read all of Surah Ali Imran. So these are the two long surahs. He took very long in reading them. And once he did the salam, the people were like amazed, like this guy takes too much time in the salah. So they said, let's beat him up. Let's beat this guy up. So they took hold of him and they started beating him up. They said, who the hell do you think you are? We told you to make the Tarawih prayer very short. You prayed two rak'ahs. The first rak'ah you prayed, you read all of Surah Al-Baqarah, and the second rak'ah you read all of Surah Al-Imran. So the benefit of this story is that we have to remember the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what he has said, that when a person is praying, he should not take too long in his prayer. For maybe behind him there is the young, there is the old, and there is the one who is needing to go to the washroom, right? He can't hold it anymore. So, or needs to, he can't hold he needs to break his wudu because he can't hold what, he has. So this is a very important story to understand. Now, in Tarawih prayer, you can take long, but make sure it's not too long, like reading in the first rak'ah, Surah Al-Fatiha and all of Surah Al-Baqarah is too much. That is not, I can't say it's not allowed, but I can say this is not following the Sunnah. This is not following the Sunnah, and this will cause many problems. You will lose many people, and people will stop praying Taraweeh. You have to keep challenging people to pray Taraweeh and to follow the order of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ by actually not prolonging the Taraweeh prayer and not shortening it so it can be very short. You can make it neutral. You can make it neutral. You can, for example, read but keep it neutral. Not too long, not too short. But come on, reading Surah Al-Baqarah, Surah Ali Imran, Surah, all these surah, this is going against the Sunnah. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was able, there are some hadiths that show that when he stood up for prayer, in the first rak'ah, he would read all of Surah Al-Baqarah, all of Surah Ali Imran, all of Surah Al-Nisa. That even the companions behind him, they needed to sit down because of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ prolonging this prayer. Now this was for a reason. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ did it for some times. He did not do it too much. But again, as we have to say that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, what he has said, that among us, we should not make the prayers too long, right? And if we are not on the level of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Sahaba and the companions. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says, I am the most fearful of Allah than all of you. Right? And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was able to do things that we were not able to do. The companions were able to follow him in these things that we are not able to do. So we will never raise up to that level. As much ibadah as we do, as much worship, we will never reach the level of the companions that were able, that Allah gave them the ability to prolong the prayer, gave them the ability to follow the Prophet Muhammad SAW. And even as you can see, this was an example that no one was able to stand as long in the prayer, because the companion said, "Oh, we felt the Prophet read too much surah. We felt that we had to sit down." So from this, Allah is showing a sign that no one can reach the Prophet Muhammad SAW to that level of standing up for a long time till his feet get swelled. So we have to understand that even the Prophet ﷺ gave us an order, and he says, when you pray, do not take long in the prayer. So you don't need to make it very short, you don't need to make it very long, but when you pray, you should keep the prayer neutral, right? For you don't know, there is behind you the old, there is behind you the young, there is behind you, very small kids, right? That can't take that long. And you might, by doing this, you might pull away the kids to not love praying behind you anymore. And also we have to understand from this story that the only people that were able to do this is the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ and the Sahaba. We are never in that level. And the Prophet ordered us and ordered his companions to not take that long in that, so it can be an example to those who are lesser than the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So we should keep the prayer neutral, or we should keep it short. But for Taraweeh, because for Qiyamul Layl, you can take long. It's from the Sunnah to take long, but not very long. It's from the Sunnah to keep it neutral. This is what I mean by long. And you don't need to keep it that short, because in Qiyamul Layl, it's better for a person to prolong the prayer, and it's from the Sunnah of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, but he must not prolong it too long that he will move away people from him. So this is what I wanted to share with you as a Ramadan tip to prepare for Ramadan, that if someone is praying behind you, do not take very long in the prayer. And remember, take an example of this story, and this is a true story. It happened from the times from the long time ago, from the Islamic Muslim golden age, when the Muslims had a caliphate. And it's a story about that, when is it permissible to beat up an imam. So it's it's very funny story, and we can learn from this story that just like this person took too long in the prayer, the people wanted to beat him up. They said, "Who the hell are you? Why are you taking this too long?" Right? So from this way, it makes people angry. It makes people pull away from you, and people will stop praying behind you. And basically, sometimes if you're the imam of the masjid, people will leave that masjid and they will not pray anymore in it. And if it happens in every single masjid, then this is the same thing. People will leave the prayer completely and pray in their homes. And we don't want that. We want the Salat al-Jama'ah to be in the masjid, in the houses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where people can get rewards and get ajr for it. So this is a funny story I wanted to share. And Assalamu alaikum.